for the new wing.
Yes, and they want a 15 gig, I believe, from Frontier. They're gonna get it from.
I'm not sure, but
Time Warner. I guess they did it. They must have checked.
this is
right?
part of the construction project, so.
All right. Any other discussion on that? We'll move this to full board.
Full board.
Okay. Let's move right along here. Most resolutions, so. Okay, we're back to the money transfers again. This is from the district attorney's office. There's no representative here and there. So this resolution is to transfer funds. Do you want it read or do you want it?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Okay. All right, now discussion, please.
Move it.
This is from the district attorney. I can't really explain it. You just something.
It's drug forfeiture money.
Okay, that's what most of these transfers are, so. Okay, full board?
Full board.
Okay. Let's move along to the next resolution again, amending the operating budget for forfeiture of crime proceeds. Sponsor,
I'll second.
second. Okay. Any discussion on that? Again, that's from the district attorney's office. All right, somebody want to make a motion to full board on that?
Full board.
Okay, all right. Let's move right along. Let's see, we have another resolution from the district attorney's office. This one is for operating budget, carried over forfeiture monies. We did the crime.
No, this is a carryover.
This is another one. So is there a sponsor in a second?
I'll sponsor.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Move to the full board.
Okay, we'll move into the full board. Now we have a resolution from the sheriff. And let's, hold on, let me get organized here. Okay. And this sheriff, you want to explain that resolution a little bit, or?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Got a representative from Sheriff's Office. This position, last year I discussed it with personnel. It's a position in my office that does administrative work in my office. And we went back and forth concerning this position because this position does duties that are above what the title that the person's in right now. We're trying to correct that. We came up with the title of office manager, and it was put into the budget, and the legislators approved it. It was under my belief, and personnel director's belief at that time, that even though this was a upgrade in the position, it was only a $300 increase in pay. The personnel director told me that they have to redo the schedule for non-bargaining people, and to realign the people in better, different salary grades and all that. And she said at that time that it would probably be more money at that time after everything was changed over, which we said, fine, no problem. Budget was passed, we went through the pink slip, came back to us saying that the person was gonna make less money than they were making. And so we asked why, what's going on. They said, well, you figured it out. Apparently when you move from one title to the next title, the non-bargaining, there's also what you call buckets. She would lose the buckets that she had from her current title going into the new title. Therefore, she was gonna make $300 less a year doing the same job with a better title. So we said, no, let's wait till everything gets straightened out and go back and do it again. With the title again and the pay. So basically all I'm doing is taking the money from the new title, putting it back into the old title, which is in my budget, and she's doing the same job right now. Nothing's changed. Just we were trying to correct the position because when my secretary leaves, this position does everything that my secretary does when my secretary's there. But when my secretary leaves, this person does everything all by themselves. My secretary makes more money than this person. So it's not proper. It's not right. But we'll deal with it until the non-bargaining
doesn't make sense to me. But again, it's because of the confusion that we add to it ourselves by keeping this, so.
Anything else?
No, I think that's true. That's really important. We need to straighten that out. Get rid of all that extra stuff. Just pay the person what their salary or should be and leave it at that. In the private sector, sometimes you get a different color hat, but we don't have that.
No sponsor. Second.
Either.
Second.
Carrie. Full board or?
Full board.
There you go. You got moved, got put back again, got moved again. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next resolution. You're still gonna establish a position, is that what you're doing? Do you sign the agreement with the grade G position, or we're still not gonna do that at this point? Or-
Basically, all you're doing is putting the money back into her old
So
line,
we're not doing anything right now?
and she's in her old line right now, so just putting the money back in there. We're running in the red in that line right now, which you can do in personnel. We're just putting the money back into balance.
So eventually you're going to move her over there?
That's down the road when they figure out the non-bargaining titles, grades, what they get paid, and then we'll revisit that and see if it's the right title and the right pay, you know.
Okay, so that's all settled in for at least the time being.
Yeah.
Very good. All right, let's move on to the next resolution. Let's see, this is with sign agreement with Trinity Services Group.
Joe, you missed the second resolution.
Okay, we didn't cancel that one because it was after
No,
this.
that's a separate resolution.
Okay, all right, so we have a resolution establishing a principal account clerk, typist, grade G position, and amending the 2016 operating budget for that. Do we have a sponsor?
Sponsor?
Second.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Sheriff, you want to explain that?
Sure. This is a position in my civil office. I'll give you a little history, a real brief history of it. Civil office used to be manned by deputy sheriffs. Everybody in it is deputy sheriff. And they were making a different pay rate. When I had two people leave at the same time that were my civil staff, I had to get new people in. At that time, it was Personnel Director Rich Bale was here. And that was quite a few years ago. And it was probably like maybe 2000. And reviewed everything, and he said, because we didn't know what to put back in there. They didn't want to put deputies back in there at the time. They wanted to try to change it to civilian CSDA employees. And we were going back and forth about it because of the type of work. Because at that time, the deputies that were assigned there were going out of the building also and doing evictions. So they had to be at least a peace officer status to do that work. Well, there was some changes made to staff where we would have the road patrol do it instead of the civil staff doing it. So we went with civilians in there. That's the only change that we did.
that she's doing the work of a principal account clerk and not
Correct.
senior account clerk.
Correct.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out what these titles should be back then, and Mr. Vega came up with these civil senior account, made up these titles. And we put them in the budget, and that's what they were, but they weren't the right titles. And you'll see that, if you look at my budget, and you look at everybody else's budget, you don't see a civil account senior, civil account clerk or anything like that. It was something he made up. But I guess they have the ability to do, local CSCA can do that, civil service can do that, and try to attach a money figure to that new title. And then when we looked at what the before.